How we went to Jimena Chin's house. It was the first time we went to Jimena's house. Up until then, we'd always hung out at my house or Summer's apartment. Jimena lived in one of those luxury high-rises on the other side of the park. It was a doorman building, very different from the apartments I was used to in North River Heights. Most of those are brownstones or small apartment buildings that are over 100 years old. Jimena's apartment was ultra-modern. The elevator opened directly into the apartment. "Hey," said Jimena, waiting for us in the foyer. "Hey," we said. "Wow, this is beautiful," said Summer, looking around as she dropped her sleeping bag in the hallway. "Should we take our shoes off?" "Sure, thanks," said Jimena, taking our coats. "I can't believe it's snowing again." I dropped my sleeping bag next to Summer's and pulled off my Uggs. A woman I'd never seen before came in from the living room. "This is Louisa," said Jimena. "This is Summer, and that's Charlotte. Louisa's my babysitter." "Hi," we both said. Louisa smiled at us. "So nice to meet you," she said in halting English, and then she said something in rapid-fire Spanish to Jimena, who answered by nodding and saying gracias. "You speak Spanish?" I said, astonished. We were following Jimena over to the kitchen counter. Jimena laughed. "You didn't know? Jimena's such a Spanish name. You want something to drink?" "I thought it was Chinese," I answered truthfully. "Water's great." "Me too," said Summer. "My dad's Chinese," she explained, filling 2 glasses full of water from the refrigerator door. "My mom's Spanish, from Madrid. That's where I was born." "Really?" I said. "That's so cool." She set the cups of water in front of us while Louisa brought over a tray full of snacks. "Muchas gracias," Summer said to Louisa. "Muchas gracias," I repeated in my terrible American accent. "You guys are so cute," said Jimena, dipping a carrot stick into a little tub of hummus. "So, did you grow up in Madrid?" I asked. "Besides dancing and horses and Les Mis, the thing I love most in the world is traveling. Not that I had ever done any traveling, yet. So far, we'd only gone to the Bahamas once, Florida, and Montreal. But my parents are always talking about taking us to Europe someday. And I plan on becoming a professional traveler after I'm done being a Broadway star." "No, I didn't grow up there," answered Jimena. "I mean, I spend summers there, except for last summer when I did the ballet intensive here in the city. But I didn't grow up there. My parents both work for the UN, so I kind of grew up all over the place." She took a bite of the carrot stick. Crunch. "Rome for 2 years. Then before that, we lived in Brussels. We lived in Dubai for a year when I was about 4, but I don't remember that at all." "Wow," said Summer. "That's so cool," I said. Jimena tapped on the glass she was drinking from with her carrot stick. "It's okay," she said, "but it can be kind of hard, too. Moving around, I'm always the new kid in school." "Oh, yeah," Summer said sympathetically. "I survived," Jimena answered sarcastically. "I'm not about to complain." She took another bite of her carrot stick. "So, do you know other languages?" I asked. She held up 3.5 fingers as an answer, since her mouth was full. And then after she swallowed, she elaborated. "English, because I always went to American schools, Spanish, Italian, and a little bit of Mandarin from my grandmother." "That's so cool," I answered. "You keep saying that's so cool," Jimena pointed out. "That's so uncool," I answered, which made her laugh. Louisa came over to Jimena and asked her something. "Louisa wants to know what you guys would like for dinner," Jimena translated. Summer and I looked at each other. "Oh, anything is fine," Summer said very politely to Louisa. "Please don't go to any trouble." Louisa raised her eyebrows and smiled as Jimena translated. Then she reached over and pinched Summer's cheek affectionately. "Que muchachita hermosa," she said, and then she looked at me. "Y esta se parece a una muñequita." I probably butchered that, by the way. Jimena laughed. "She says you're very pretty, Summer. And Charlotte, you look like a little doll." I looked at Louisa, who was smiling and nodding. "Aw," I said, "that's so nice." Then she walked away to start dinner for us. "My parents will be home about 8 p.m., Jimena said, waving for us to follow her. She showed us the rest of the apartment, which looked like something out of a magazine. Everything was white. The sofa, the rug, there was even a white ping-pong table in the living room. It made me a little nervous about being klutzy, which I have been known to be, and accidentally spilling something. We made our way down the hall to Jimena's room, which was probably the biggest bedroom I've ever seen that wasn't a master bedroom. My bedroom, which I shared with Beatrix, was probably 1/4 the size of Jimena's bedroom. Summer walked into the middle of the room and made a slow spin as she took it all in. "Okay, this room is actually as big as my entire living room and kitchen combined," she said. "Oh, wow," I said, walking over to the floor-to-ceiling windows. You can see the Empire State Building from here. This is like the most beautiful apartment I've ever seen, said Summer, sitting down in Jimena's desk chair. Thanks, Jimena said, nodding and looking around. She seemed a little embarrassed. Yeah, I mean, we've only been here since this summer, so it doesn't quite feel like home to me yet, but she plopped down on the bed. Summer pulled the rolling chair up to the giant bulletin board in back of Jimena's desk, which was completely covered with tiny photos and pictures and quotes and sayings. Oh, look, a Mr. Brown precept, she said, pointing to a cutout of Mr. Brown's September precept. He's like my favorite teacher ever, answered Jimena. Mine too, I said. What a cute picture of you and Savannah, Summer said. I went over to see what she was pointing at. In between the dozens of little pictures of people from Jimena's life, most of whom we didn't recognize, were camera booth type photos of Jimena and Savannah, plus Jimena and Miles, Savannah and Henry, and Ellie and Amos. When I saw Ellie's picture up there, I have to admit it was kind of strange for me. Like I saw her in a different light. She really did have this whole new life. I have to get a picture of you two for my wall, Jimena said. Oh, come on, said Summer in her cute, disapproving fairy way as she pointed to a picture on the board. Jimena! It took me a second to realize she hadn't just said, oh, come on, in response to what Jimena had just said. Oh, sorry, said Jimena, making a guilty face. At first, I didn't know what the problem was, since it was just our homeroom class picture. Then I realized that over Augie's face was a tiny yellow post-it with a drawing of a sad face. Jimena pulled the post-it off the picture. It was just Savannah and those guys fooling around, she said apologetically. That's almost as bad as Julian's mom photoshopping the picture, Summer said. It was from a long time ago. I forgot it was even there, said Jimena. I was so used to the dimple in her left cheek by now that I never confused when she was serious with when she was joking anymore. I would say her expression right now was definitely remorseful. Look, the truth is, I think Augie's amazing. But you never talk to him, said Summer. Just because I'm not comfortable around him doesn't mean I'm not amazed by him, explained Jimena. At that moment, we heard a knock on the open door. Louisa was holding a little boy in her arms who had obviously just woken up from a nap. He was probably about 3 or 4 years old and looked exactly like Jimena, except for the fact that it was very obvious that he had Down syndrome. Hola, Eduardito, said Jimena, beaming. She held her arms out to her little brother, who Louisa deposited into her arms. These are my friends, mis amigas. This is Charlotte, and that's Summer. Say hi, di hola. She took Eduardito's hand and waved it at us, and we waved back. Eduardito, who had still not completely woken up, looked at us sleepily while Jimena planted kisses all over his face. How we played Truth or Dare. The day I found out my dad died, Summer said. The three of us were lying in our sleeping bags on the floor in Jimena's bedroom. The ceiling lights had been turned off, but the red chilly Christmas lights that were strung all around the room gave the walls a pink glow in the dark. Our pajamas glowed pink, our faces glowed pink. It was the perfect lighting for telling secrets and talking about things you would never talk about in the daylight. We were playing a truth or dare game, and the truth card that Summer had drawn read, "What was the worst day of your life?" My first instinct had been to put the card back and tell her to draw another one, but she didn't seem to mind answering it. I was in Mrs. Bob's class when my mom and grandma came to get me, she continued quietly. I thought they were taking me to the dentist since I'd lost a tooth that morning, but the second we got inside our car, my grandma started to cry. And then Mom told me that they had just found out that Dad had been killed in action. Daddy's in heaven now, she said, and then we all just cried and cried in the car, like these huge, unstoppable tears. She was fidgeting with the zipper on her sleeping bag as she talked, not looking at us. Anyway, that was the worst day. Jimena shook her head. I can't even imagine what that must be like, she said quietly. Me neither, I said. It's kind of a blur now, actually, answered Summer, still pulling at the zipper. Like I honestly don't remember his funeral. At all. The only thing I remember about that day is this picture book about dinosaurs that I was reading. There was this one illustration of a meteor streaking across the sky over the heads of the Triceratops. And I remember thinking my dad's death was like that. It's like the extinction of the dinosaurs. A meteor hits your heart and changes everything forever. But you're still here. You go on. She finally got the zipper to unstick and pulled it up all the way to close her sleeping bag. But anyway, she said. I remember your dad, I said. Yeah, she said, smiling. He was tall, I answered, and he had a really deep voice. Summer nodded happily. My mom told me all of the moms thought he was so handsome, I said. Summer opened her eyes wide. Aw, she said. We were quiet again for a few seconds. Summer started straightening up the card decks. Okay, so whose turn is it now? She asked. I think it's mine, I answered, flicking the spinner. It landed on truth, so I pulled a card from the truth deck. Oh, this one's so lame, I said, reading aloud. What superpower would you like to have and why? That's fun, said Summer. I'd want to fly, of course, I answered. I could go anywhere I want, zoom around the world, go to all those places Jimenez lived in. Oh, I think I'd want to be invisible, said Jimena. I wouldn't, I answered. Why? So I could hear what everyone says about me behind my back and know that everyone thinks I'm such a phony? Oh no, laughed Jimena, not this again. I'm teasing, you know. I know, she said, but for the record, no one thinks you're a phony. Thank you. Just a faker. Ha! But you do care too much about what people think of you, she said, somewhat seriously. I know, I answered, just as seriously. Okay, it's your turn, Jimena, said Summer. Jimena flicked the spinner. It pointed to truth. She picked a card, read it to herself, and then groaned. If you could go out with any boy in your school, who would it be? She read aloud. She covered her face with her hand. What? I said. Wouldn't it be Miles? Jimena started laughing and shook her head, embarrassed. Whoa, Summer and I both said, pointing at her. Who? Jimena was laughing. It was hard to see in the dim light, but I'm pretty sure she was blushing. If I tell you, you have to tell me your secret crushes, she said. Not fair, I answered. Yes, fair, she said. Fine. Amos, she said, sighing. No way, said Summer, her mouth open wide. Does Ellie know? Of course not, said Jimena. It's just a crush. I wouldn't do anything about it. Besides, he's not into me at all. He really likes Ellie. I thought about that, how just a few months ago Ellie and I would talk about Jack. Having a boyfriend seemed like such a far-off thing back then. Jimena looked at me. I think I know who Charlotte's crush is, she said in a sing-song way. I covered my face. Everybody knows, thanks to Ellie, I said. What about you, Summer? Said Jimena, poking Summer's hand. Yeah, Summer, what about you? I asked. Summer was smiling, but she just shook her head no. Come on, said Jimena, pulling Summer's pinky. There's got to be someone. Fine, she said. She hesitated. Reed. Reed? Said Jimena. Who's Reed? He's in Mr. Brown's class with us, I answered. Very quiet, draws sharks. He's not exactly popular, Summer said, but he's really nice, and I think he's very cute. Oh, said Jimena. Of course I know who Reed is. Duh, he's totally cute. He is, right? Said Summer. You'd make a great couple, said Jimena. Maybe someday, answered Summer. I don't want to be a couple yet. Is that why you didn't want to go out with Julian? Asked Jimena. I didn't want to go out with Julian because Julian's a jerk, Summer answered quickly. But you weren't really sick on Halloween, right? Said Jimena at Savannah's party. Summer shook her head. I wasn't sick. Jimena nodded. I thought so. Okay, I have a question, but it's not from the cards, I said to Jimena. Oh, said Jimena, raising her eyebrows and smiling. Okay. I hesitated. Okay, when you say you're going out with Miles, what does that really mean? Like, what do you do? Charlotte, said Summer, smacking my arm with the back of her hand. Jimena started laughing. No, I just mean, I said. I know what you mean, said Summer, grabbing my fingers. All it means is that Miles meets me at my locker after school every day, and he walks me to the bus stop sometimes, and we hold hands. Have you ever kissed him? I asked. Jimena made a face like she was sucking on a lemon. She wasn't wearing her contacts now, just big tortoise-framed glasses, as well as a retainer she was supposed to wear at night. She didn't look at all like the Jimena Chin we were used to seeing in school. Just once, at the Halloween party. Did you like it? I asked. I don't know, she answered, smiling. It was a little like kissing your arm. Have you ever done that? Kiss your arm. Summer and I obediently kissed our arms, and then we all started giggling. Oh, Jack, I said, making slurpy noises while I kissed myself up and down my wrist. Oh, Reed, said Summer, doing the same thing. Oh, Miles, said Jimena, kissing her wrist. I mean, Amos. We were cracking up. Mija, Jimena's mom said, knocking on the door. She poked her head in. I don't want the baby to wake up. Can you keep it down a little? Sorry, Mommy, said Jimena. Good night, girls, she said sweetly. Good night, we whispered. Sorry. Should we go to sleep now? I said softly. No, let's just be much quieter, said Jimena. Come on, I think it's your turn now, Summer. Truth or dare? I have another question that's not on the card. Two, said Summer, pointing to Jimena. For you. Uh-oh, you guys are ganging up on me, laughed Jimena. We haven't done any dares yet, I pointed out. Okay, this is the dare, said Summer. You have to sit at my lunch table on Monday, and you can't tell anyone why. Oh, come on, said Jimena. I can't just ditch my table without saying why. Exactly, answered Summer, so choose truth. Fine, said Jimena, so what's the truth? Summer looked at her. Okay, truth. If Savannah, Ellie, and Gretchen hadn't gone skiing this weekend, Would you still have asked Charlotte and me to sleep over tonight? Jimena rolled her eyes. Ugh, she puffed her cheeks out like a fish. You look like Mrs. Watanabe now, I pointed out. Come on, truth or dare, Summer pressured her. Okay, fine, Jimena said finally, hiding her face behind her hands. It's true. I probably wouldn't have. Sorry. She peeked out at us from behind her fingers. I was supposed to go skiing with them this weekend, but then I didn't think it was worth my possibly twisting an ankle or something right before the dance, so I canceled at the last minute, and then I invited you guys to come over. Aha, said Summer, poking Jimena in the shoulder. I knew it. We were your plan B for this weekend. I started poking her, too. I'm sorry, said Jimena, laughing because we had started tickling her. But it doesn't mean I don't want to hang out with you guys, too. Have you had any other sleepovers in the last month? Summer asked. We were tickling her a lot at this point. Yes, she giggled. I'm sorry, I didn't invite you to those either. I'm not good at mixing my friend groups, but I'll get better next year, I promise. Do you even like Savannah? I said, giving her one last poke. Jimena made a face that I realized was a perfect imitation of Savannah's ew expression. Now Summer and I started laughing. Shh, said Jimena, patting the air to remind us to keep quiet. Shh, said Summer. Shh, I said. We all settled down. Okay, I have to admit, Jimena said quietly, she's been really annoying ever since I started spending time with you guys rehearsing. She was so mad when she wasn't picked for the dance. Probably mad that I got picked instead of her, said Summer. Actually, no, she was mad at Charlotte, Jimena answered, pointing her thumb at me. I knew it, I said. Jimena leaned her head on one shoulder. She said, and this is her talking, not me, that you always get the good parts in shows at Beecher Prep because the teachers know you were in TV commercials when you were little and that you try really hard to always be a teacher's pet. What the heck? I said, stupefied. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Jimena shrugged. I'm just telling you what she told me and Ellie. But Ellie knows that's not true, I said. Trust me, answered Jimena. Ellie never says anything to contradict Savannah. I don't get why she's always hated me, I said, shaking my head. Savannah doesn't hate you, Summer answered, reaching over to take Jimena's glasses off of her face. I think if anything, she's probably always been a little jealous of you and Ellie being best friends. Really? I said, why? Summer shrugged. She tried on Jimena's glasses. Well, you know, you and Ellie tended to be kind of cliquey. I think Savannah probably felt a little left out. This had never, ever occurred to me. I had no idea anyone felt that way, I said. I mean, seriously, no idea. Are you sure? Did other people feel this way? Did you? Summer let the glasses fall to the tip of her nose. Kind of, but I wasn't in any of your classes, so I didn't care. Savannah was in all your classes. Wow, I said, biting the inside of my cheek, which is a nervous habit I have. I wouldn't worry about it, though, said Summer, putting Jimena's glasses on my face now. It doesn't matter anymore. You look really good in those. I don't want Savannah to hate me, though, I said. Why do you care so much about what Savannah thinks? Asked Jimena. Don't you care what she thinks? I asked. Let's face it, you're different when you're around her, too. That's true, said Summer, taking the glasses off my face. She started cleaning them with her pajama top. You're much nicer when you're not with her, I said. Jimena was twisting her hair with her finger. Everyone's a little mean in middle school, don't you think? No, said Summer, putting the glasses back on Jimena's face. Not even a little, Jimena answered, raising her right eyebrow. No, Summer repeated, adjusting the glasses so they were straight. No one has to be mean, ever. She leaned back to inspect the glasses. Well, that's what you think because you're a saint, teased Jimena. Oh my gosh, if you call me that one more time, laughed Summer, tossing her pillow at Jimena. Summer Dawson, you did not just hit me with my favorite 800 fill power European white goose down pillow, did you? Said Jimena, standing up slowly. She picked up her own super fluffy pillow and raised it in the air. Is that a challenge? Summer asked, standing and holding her pillow like a shield. I stood up excitedly, holding my pillow in the air. Pillow fight, I said a little too loudly because I was excited. Shh, Jimena said, holding her finger over her mouth to remind me to keep it down. Silent pillow fight, I whispered loudly. We spent one long second looking at one another to see who would strike first, and then we just started going at it. Jimena brought her pillow down on Summer. Summer struck her from below. I made a long side swipe at Jimena, then Jimena came up and swung at me from the left, but Summer spun around and struck us both from above. Soon we were smacking each other with more than just pillows, the stuffed animals on Jimena's bed, towels, our rolled-up clothes. And despite our trying to be completely silent, or maybe because of it, there's nothing funnier than trying not to laugh when you want to laugh. It was the single best pillow fight I've ever had in my entire life. The thing that stopped it, or else it might have gone on too long, was the mysterious trumpet blast of a fart that came from one of us. It stopped the three of us in our tracks as we looked at each other, eyes open wide, and started laughing hysterically when no one took credit for it. Anyway, 2 seconds later, Jimena's mom knocked on the door again, still sounding patient but also obviously a little irritated. It was way past midnight. We promised her we would go to sleep now and we wouldn't make any more noise. We were out of breath from laughing so hard my stomach actually hurt a little. It took us a while to straighten out our sleeping bags and put the stuffed animals back where they belonged. We folded our clothes and returned the towels to the closet. We smoothed out our pillows and laying down in our sleeping bags and zipped them up. And then we said goodnight to one another, but I couldn't fall asleep. Even though I was sleepy, the night swirled inside me. It was like my eyes were too heavy to keep open, but way too curious to close. I got a case of the giggles, and then Summer and Jimena started giggling. We kept trying to shush one another by cupping our hands over each other's mouths. Finally, once the giggles had passed and it got quiet again, Jimena started singing really softly in the dark. At first, I didn't even realize what she was singing. She was singing so quietly. No, 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 no. Then Summer took up the song. No, 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 no. Finally, I realized what they were singing and sang, no, 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 no. Then we all started whisper singing together. Nobody can do the shingling like I do. Nobody can do the skate like I do. Nobody can do boogaloo like I do. We were lying on our backs side by side as we sang and made our arms and hands dance and sink above our heads, and we sang the whole song from beginning to end as quietly as if it were praying in church. How our Venn diagrams look. So remember, she's done this several times. Now she's got Charlotte, Jimena, and Summer. And they've still got a lot of things that are exclusive to them, but in common now, they've got the shingling, and she's put that huge, loves dogs, and they're all on the honor roll, which means they get good grades. How we never talked about it. On Monday, there was no mention of the sleepover. It's like the three of us knew instinctively, without having to say it out loud, that when we got back to school, everything would return to being business as usual. Jimena hanging out with the Savannah group, Summer hanging out with her tiny group, me playing dots with Maya at my lunch table. No one would have ever guessed that Summer, Jimena, and I had become good friends, or that just a few days before we were having silent pillow fights and sharing secrets under the pink glow of the red chili lights in Jimena's bedroom. How I failed to prevent a social catastrophe. The night before the gala, Mrs. Watanabe told us to take the day off and get some rest. She wanted us to make sure we had a nice, healthy dinner and a good night's sleep. Then she gave us our costumes, which she had somehow managed to sew herself. We had already tried them on the week before, but I was excited to come home and try mine on again, now that it had been fitted. The costume was inspired by this photo of the Liberty Bells. So that afternoon, I went home from school with Maya and Lena the way I used to in the old days before I started hanging out with Summer and Jimena all the time. It was one of the first nice days in March when you finally get a hint of spring after the long, crazy, cold winter. Lena had the brainstorm to stop at the Carvel on the way home, which felt like a very springtime thing to do. So we walked in the opposite direction up Amesfort toward the park. As we were walking, I told them how I had heard that Savannah was telling people the whole reason I got the part in Mrs. Watanabe's dance show was because I had been in a TV commercial when I was little. No one believes that, Lena said sympathetically, kicking her soccer ball in front of her. That's awful, said Maya, and it kind of made me happy that she got so mad about it. I can't believe Savannah. She used to be so nice in lower school. Savannah was never really that nice to me, I answered. She was nice to me, Maya insisted, pushing her glasses up her nose. Now she's evil. That whole group is evil. I nodded, then I shook my head. Well, I don't know about that. And now they've turned Ellie against us, Maya said. You know, Ellie barely even says hello to me anymore. Now she's evil, too. I scratched my nose. Maya had a way of being very black and white about things, I guess. I'm telling you, it's Jimena Chin's fault, Maya continued. It's only because of her. If she hadn't started this year, everything would be the same as it was. She's the bad influence. I knew that was how Maya saw things. It was one of the reasons I never went into too much detail about the dance show I was in. She never really got that it was just me, Summer, and the dreaded Jimena Chin. And that was fine by me. I didn't want to have to defend my friendship with Jimena to Maya. I honestly don't think she would have understood. You know what I hate the most, Maya said? I hate that she's probably going to end up giving the 5th grade commencement speech at graduation this year. Well, she does have the best grades of anyone, I answered, trying to sound as impartial as possible. I thought you had the best grades, Charlotte, Lena told me. No, Jimena does, Maya interjected. She started counting off her fingers. Jimena, Charlotte, Simon, me, and then either Augie or Remo. Augie's actually got better grades than Remo in math, but he didn't do that well in Spanish on his last few quizzes, and that's bringing his whole grade point average down. Maya always knew what everyone else got on their tests. She kept tabs on homework assignments, essay scores, you name it. If it had a grade attached to it, Maya would ask you about it. And she had an amazing way of remembering all those details, too. It's crazy how you can remember everybody's grades, said Lena. It's a gift, answered Maya, not even meaning to be funny. Hey, did you tell Charlotte about the note? Lena asked her. What note? I said. Like I mentioned, I was a little out of the loop with these guys because I hadn't hung around them that much these last few weeks. Oh, nothing, said Maya. She wrote Ellie a note, said Lena. Maya looked up at me and frowned. Telling her how I feel, she added, peering at me over the rims of her glasses. I immediately had a sinking feeling about this note. What did you write? I asked. She shrugged. Just a note. Lena nudged her. Let her read it. She's going to tell me to not give it to her, Maya answered, biting the end of her long curly hair. At least show it to me, I said, now really curious. Come on, Maya. We had stopped at the intersection of Amesfort and 222nd Street to wait for the light to change. Fine, Maya answered. I'll show you. She started digging into her coat pocket and pulled out a well-worn Ugly Doll envelope with the word Ellie written on the outside in silver marker. Okay, so basically, I just wanted Ellie to know how I feel about the way she's changed this year. She passed the envelope to me and then nodded for me to open it and read the note. Dear Ellie, I'm writing as one of your oldest friends to tell you that you've been acting different lately, and I hope you snap out of it. I don't blame you. I blame it on the evil Jimena Chin, who is negatively influencing you. First she twisted Savannah's brain, and now she's turning you into a pretty zombie just like she is. I hope you stop being friends with her and remember all the good times we used to have. Remember Mr. Brown's November precept, have no friends not equal to yourself. Can we please be friends again? Your former really good friend, Maya. I folded the note up and put it back inside the envelope. She was looking at me expectantly. Is it stupid? She asked. I handed the envelope back to her. No, it's not stupid, I answered. But as your friend, I'm telling you that I don't think you should give it to her. I knew you would try to talk me out of it, she said, annoyed and disappointed by my reaction. No, I'm not trying to talk you out of it, I said. You should give it to her if you really want to. I know you mean well, Maya. I'm not trying to mean well, she said angrily. I'm just trying to be truthful. I know, I said. By now we had crossed the street and arrived at Carvel, only to see how super busy it was inside. The line at the counter went all the way to the door, and every single table was full, mostly with Beecher prep kids. Everyone had the same idea as we did, said Lena regretfully. It's too crowded, I said. Let's forget it. Maya gripped my arm. Look, there's Ellie, she said. I followed her gaze and saw Ellie sitting with Jimena, Savannah, and Gretchen, plus Miles, Henry, and Amos at a table in front of the birthday cake counter, which was all the way on the other side of the shop. Let's just go, I said, pulling Maya by the arm. Lena had already started kicking the ball down the block, but Maya stayed where she was. I'm going to give her my note, she said slowly, her expression very serious. She held the note I had just returned to her in her left hand, and now she waved it like a tiny flag. Oh, no, you're not, I said quickly, pushing her hand down. Not now, at least. Why not? Lena came back toward us. Wait, you want to give her the note now? She said incredulously, in front of everybody? Yes, Maya answered stubbornly. No, I said, closing my hand over the note. All I could think of is what a big fool she would make of herself if she did that. Ellie would open the note in front of everyone at her table, and they would get so mad at Ellie for the things she said about Jimena and Savannah. Unforgivable things, really. But even worse, they would totally start laughing at her about this. This is the kind of thing you would never live down, Maya, I cautioned. You will absolutely regret this. Don't do it. I could tell she was reconsidering. Her forehead was all scrunched up. You could give it to her some other time, I continued, tugging on her coat sleeve the way Summer sometimes tugged on mine when she was talking. When she's alone. You could even send it to her in the mail if you want, but do not do it now in front of everyone. I'm begging you, believe me, Maya. That would be a social catastrophe. I saw her rubbing her face. The thing with Maya is she's never cared about popularity or social catastrophe. She's so good at keeping tabs on people's test scores and grades, but she doesn't have a clue how to read the social stuff. She gets the basics, of course, but in her black and white world, kids are either nice or evil. There's no in between. In some ways, there's always been one of the That's always been one of the nicest things about her. She'll go up to anyone and just assume they're friends, or she'll do something really nice for someone out of the blue, like giving Augie Pullman an Ugly Doll keychain, which she did just last week. But in some ways, it's really bad because she has no defenses ready when people aren't nice to her. She has no good comebacks. She just takes it all seriously. What's worse, though, is that she doesn't always get when people don't feel like talking to her. So she'll just keep chattering on or asking questions until the person walks away. It was Ellie who actually put it kind of perfectly a few months ago when we were griping about how annoying Maya could be sometimes. Maya makes it easy for people to be mean to her. And now Maya was about to make it really easy for Ellie to be mean to her in front of a whole bunch of ice cream eating kids. Because despite my words, despite my basically begging her not to do this, Maya Markowitz walked into the store, wove her way in and out of the crowd of people waiting in line, and marched to the back table where Ellie and that whole group of mighty girls was sitting. Lena and I watched from the sidewalk outside the Carvel. There was a floor-to-ceiling window to the storefront, which was the perfect place to see the events unfold. For a second, it felt like I was looking at one of those nature videos on PBS. I could almost hear a man with a British accent narrating the action. Observe what happens as the young gazelle, which has just strayed from its herd. I watched Maya say something to Ellie, and how everyone at the table stopped talking and looked up at Maya. Comes to the attention of the lions who haven't eaten in several days. I saw her hand the envelope to Ellie, who seemed a bit confused. I can't watch, said Lena, closing her eyes. And now the lions, hungry for fresh meat, begin the hunt.